All right, Nick Kiprios here for the Real Kipper at Noon show. But like often, we take it off the board a little bit. Love to do these interviews, these one-on-ones, and no bigger star, National Hockey League star over the course of our history than Scott Niedermayer. And Scott, I can sit here and read your accolades all day long, but I'd keep you for about 3 hours before I actually got to you. So is it okay if I just introduce you as one of the greatest defensemen in the history of the game? Is that okay?
That's more than fun. I think that's a stretch too, but you know what? Yeah. I was very fortunate throughout my career. I got to play on some really good teams, and we always seemed to have an opportunity to win. And, that's the best thing to do in sport, is to have success. And I was real fortunate to be part of teams that did that more than once or twice. So,
you're one of the few guys that I could say that I played against, and yet it almost feels like I remember you well into my broadcasting career. So you look, and it's wow, 10 years since you retired. Does it feel that long to you?
Not when you say it like that. Not 10 years. It seems like a pretty long time, and for it to have gone that quickly is a bit shocking for sure. Some of those memories and times back on the ice doesn't seem that long ago. Been back to a few reunions with some of the teams, and it's amazing how you've been apart for 10, 15, 20 years, 20-year reunions they've been in New Jersey, and you just get right back in with the guys. We've lost some hair. We have some gray in our beard, a few extra pounds, but everybody's still pretty much the same, and we fall right back into the same roles we had when we were a team together, and really enjoyed those weekends, just kind of getting together again, seeing how everybody's doing, and catching up has been fun.
I think you're the perfect guy to talk to now that we're into a conference final in this bubble and this hub. I'm not sure how much you've been watching, but when we start speaking of these great new defensemen out there, whether it is Quinn Hughes with the Vancouver Canucks, Cale Makar in Colorado, or the one that I think for me reminds me of you so much is this Miro Heiskanen. And no matter who you talk to, the words come out, skates like Scott Niedermayer. When you hear some of those things, how does that make you feel?
I guess a bit old, right? It makes me feel like I should have been retired for 10 years, which I have. So I've got that checked. But, they're fun to watch. It's amazing how these young guys, not just the defensemen, but young players in general now come into the league, and how prepared they are, how ready they are for the prime time, really, to get out there and help their teams. There was very few of those guys back when we were playing. The odd young guy would come in and make an impact, but for the most part, it took time. You had to learn the game, and I think these kids they're coached at such a higher level than we were. They're prepared in so many different ways than we were when we were that age, and it's exciting to see. I mean, the way the game is played now, I think it lends itself to those young legs that can just keep going and going. And all those guys you mentioned are great skaters and really fun to watch as a hockey fan now for me.
Yeah, it's interesting in terms of on a pure skill level that there's no question you at an early age, very consistent with what the eye test gives us. But is the difference now with these kids is that the play away from the puck, that to me is the telling tale on maybe how these kids have been coached, or how they're maybe even a little bit more mature at that stage of their career. And they're special players. There's no question. You were a special player, but playing with having that skill and still learning to play without the puck is quite tricky, isn't it, Scott?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it took me many sort of times sitting on the end of the bench with Jacques Lemaire, saying that you're going to learn that's not the play you make. You're going to sit there and think about it for a while. And I think you're right. I think these kids have been coached. They've watched lots of video. There's a lot more structure in the game, probably, as they grew up and played junior hockey, college hockey, wherever they were. There was just a lot more coaching going on than there was 30 years ago. It's just kind of progressed with video, with technology that has allowed that to happen. So I think that's prepared them. The way the game's been played at all levels has become a lot more structured than it was back, when I was a kid in the 80s, watching the Islanders and the Oilers just run and gun and go out and just try basically to outscore the other team. That was how you won hockey games back then. And times have changed, and It's become a lot more of a structured game, and you have to know to play all over the ice. And these young guys are ahead of my generation for sure at a young age.
It's amazing to watch in terms of we do see some physicality, and we saw it the other night. We see Vegas, a big heavy team. At times, Dallas can be a big heavy team, and we always had great skaters like yourself. I played with one in Brian Leach.
Yeah.
But it just seems now in today's day and age, everybody skates well, Scott.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it is amazing to watch the game. I find myself sometimes sitting on the couch watching the game, exhausted myself, just watching these guys. Their legs do not stop moving. And, I kind of feel sorry for them a bit. Back in our day, we could kind of, there were times you could glide a bit and just pick your spots and kind of figure your way around the ice that way. But not anymore. There's guys coming behind you 100 miles an hour, and you just don't have time if you were to make those decisions. So it's changed, and these guys are working their tails off out there every shift.
I remember, Scott, watching you in your final year. You decided to retire at age 36, if I stand corrected. Yep. And you were every bit of a great skater as you were earlier in your career. Like you just couldn't have played or hung on for another year or two. You could have played another 5 or 6 years, Scott, the way you played. Did you ever look back and even watch a guy like Char at age 43 and go, maybe I should have stuck around for a couple more years?
I don't actually. There was a time we won the Stanley Cup in Anaheim in 2007. And even after that, it sort of felt like, well, where do you go from there? It was, a little older in my career, playing with my brother. There was a lot of motivations to try and have success. We were able to do it. And at that point, it just kind of seemed like, well, where do you go from here? And as an athlete, you really need to know that. I think, like, what's my goal? Are you going to try and accomplish this, or do you have to do this with your team? And I was sort of at a loss for that at that point. And I got some good advice from a lot of people, some guys that had been retired that called me and kind of shared their insight with me, because there's no question, once you're retired, it's a lot different than you kind of, at least for me, than I expected. When you're playing, you're so busy, and you're like, geez, I'd love to have a little rest, a little time off. But being retired, that's all you have now. There's no balance. There's no in between. And I got some good advice from some guys. I decided to continue to play for another 2.5 years after that. Really enjoyed that. But then it just got to a point where, that motivation for me was gone. Like you had mentioned earlier, I was lucky that I had the opportunity to play in a lot of big games, a lot of playoff games, international tournaments, and kind of get that competitive juice, I guess, out of my system, and just felt, I've been really blessed and fortunate that I was part of all that. And I feel like, it's time to move aside.
So what you're telling us, Scott, is if you didn't win the cup with your brother in 2007, then you would have been chasing it well beyond 36 years.
Yeah.
Or lost then, right?
I guess if we were both there and hadn't won it yet, we'd probably still be slugging away trying to get it, I suppose. I don't know. Good. That's a good. I've never been asked that question. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, maybe we got shortchanged a few more of your years based on that championship, but you'll take it. No question. You'll take it. That was your fourth. 3 with the New Jersey Devils. I don't ever remember you sitting, quite frankly, at any point in your career at the end of the bench, by the way. But, can you speak a little bit too, in terms of even these young players today, how important it is to have a veteran presence around you, just in case, you do have some hard times in terms of confident wise, or not feeling like you're on top of your game, because you had some great leaders in New Jersey, and Scott Stevens, of course, comes to mind at the top of the list.
Yeah. No, it's important. I mean, these young, you mentioned those young D, they've come into the league. They've had success sort of right off the bat. There's not many guys that have gone through their whole career without a few downs. There's going to be some challenges, might be, whatever it might be, injuries, or, your confidence disappears, scoring slump, the points aren't coming. I mean, there's endless ways that the game can kind of come and get you. And it really helps to have some guys that have been through those things before, just there showing you the steady hand, of how to do it every day, come to the rink, put the work in, stay focused, those type of things. I think as a young player, you kind of get caught up in the emotion of having that early success. I'm in the NHL. Look, up for Rookie of the Year. I've scored a bunch of points. And I think you can kind of get at some point possibly just a little bit lost as to how did I actually get there. You stop putting in some of that work, and you can find yourself not having the success you had, and now you're scrambling to get back there. So there's lots of ways that sports and life can come and give you a reality check, and having that veteran there to help you is huge for sure.
And your career, you had my old school. I'm quite older, but you had the old school mentality. You also saw a little bit of the new world. And of course, you spent 5 or 6 years with a salary cap as well. But it's been so interesting for me to watch how the evolution of the young star. And, Scott, I watch a guy like Miro Heiskanen, and he's barely out of his entry-level contract, and yet he has to come to the rink knowing that he's probably their best and most important player on the ice. And that's a tough thing for a kid that age.
Yeah. I think I agree. I mean, I think, sort of what I was talking about earlier, what are your expectations? If you're a younger player just coming in, obviously a high draft pick is going to have some of those expectations, but now all of a sudden you find yourself on a team that is supposed to win a championship. They're supposed to win the Stanley Cup. And now if you're the guy that's got to carry that burden as a leader, as a leader in position wise, maybe on defense or wherever it might be, that's a whole different thing than just coming in and feeling like, geez, I can do, whatever I do, everybody's happy with right now. So, as these teams are getting closer now in the conference finals, there's some pressure now. They know that they're one series away from being in the Stanley Cup final, and it changes how you think. And having some experience around you, or even as a player, is a big advantage for sure.
And we talked about, Makar and Hughes and of course Heiskanen, and with that expectation, you put demands on contracts, on next contracts, and these kids go from entry-level deals to being the highest paid player on the team. Of course, in our age, it was in our day, it was a gradual escalation to those big type of salaries. But, that could also factor in putting a ton of pressure on the kids. And I know you made some good money. There's no question about that, but it never played into your speeding up your development, did it?
No, I mean, in some ways, of course, all of us would love to get paid a big contract 3 years into our career. Can't sit here and deny that, but looking back, there is some advantages, like you said, about sort of, progressing slowly, not having those expectations, those burdens that you have to carry other than just preparing for your own game. With Lou Lamoriello in New Jersey, that's what it was always about. I mean, I came in to a veteran group of defensemen. You had mentioned Scott Stevens. My first year I was there was Fetisov and Kazatonov, two, Russian legends that, were really impressive just to watch how they played the game and how they prepared for the game. Ken Danico, Bruce Driver, some guys that were in their late 20s as well that had been around. So I was just able to slide in, zero expectations, and just learn from them, learn from our coaching staff, and just see what I could do on the ice. So the pressure was really never there on me, probably until I'd been in the league 5, 6, 7 years, where it was like, okay, now you're in the position where you have to carry the load. And I've been through some ups and downs and had learned some things along the way.
Hey, you mentioned sweet Lou Lamoriello. He's like the Energizer Bunny, Scott. He just keeps going and going and going. He can't be surprising anybody at this point, especially what you know about him and the success that he's had with the New York Islanders.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that he does is he keeps it quite simple. It's team first, and everything we do is about helping the team. And it sounds easy to say it, but it's a different thing to try and live on a day-to-day basis as an athlete, as part of a group, a team. It takes some sacrifice and some discipline. And, in New Jersey early on, my second year there, Lemaire came in, we made it to the conference finals when you guys taught us a few lessons there, but we learned a lot. We learned a lot, and we saw the success. And I think that was what really kind of made us believers and buying into what they were trying to do. There was the fact that we see that we can have success if we do this way. If we sacrifice and commit to the team, we can win a championship, which we did the following year. So thank you for that lesson of how to do it.
maybe Messier and Richter and Leach, but not Kyper. See, no lessons learned there.
The whole group takes everybody.
You know, a lot has been made, especially with a market like Toronto when Lou Lamoriello was here, that he liked his certain rules and haircuts and facial hair and the way you tape your shin pad.
Yeah.
Give us the goods here, Scott. Was
Yeah.
that a little overplayed, or is that just part of team first mentality?
I think it's a bit of both. And I think some of those things sort of Lou kind of came along over time. I don't really remember his no facial hair. I think maybe it was when the Yankees when he got connected with the Yankees in around 2000 or at that point, and I think it's a rule they have, and he probably said, "Oh, I like that one, so I'm going to use that one too." But you mentioned taping your shin pads. I remember that one, that the trainer always came and said, "You're not doing it right. You're not you can only cross it in the back. You can't cross the lines in the front." And so, I had to make some adjustments, but I wasn't a guy that was really out there trying to, I'm like, okay, no big deal. That's fine. I'll do that and go play hockey. But
yeah. And I was the same way. Listen, you want it this way. I'm fine. I got no problem with that. I just want to play. I just want to win.
Yeah, exactly.
I know I couldn't have convinced you that you made a regret retiring at age 36 to play, but looking back in the last 10 years, any thoughts or, staying involved more in the game, coaching, assistant coaching, managing? You Hall of Famers now. You go from retiring to president overnight.
What Scott, happened?
Pick a team. I'll get you a job tomorrow as a president. Just tell me.
I'm not even president of my own house here. So. You know what? We were down in California for about 8 years. And I was sort of just I was working for the Ducks in different capacities, part-time, doing some different roles. And I enjoyed that. When I was playing, I never really thought about the coaching side of it. I'm like, ooh, that doesn't look like something I'd want to do. And you kind of just want to step back. At least I did. I wanted to step back from the game for a little bit. But Bob Murray, when I told him I was retiring, just said, look, I don't want you to do a whole lot, but why don't you maybe go on a scouting trip with one of our pro scouts just to see how that works? Come to a draft, go down to our minor league team and skate with the kids down there for a week, things like that. So I did that. I did a little bit of assistant coaching with the Ducks at home for a few years, which actually I really enjoyed it. It got you right back in that same camaraderie you have as a team, trying to win. You're together every day. The team had a couple good runs in the playoffs, and I really enjoyed being part of that again. There's not much that can replace that excitement and that amount of sort of focus and different things that you're a part of a group trying to achieve that. So there are definitely things that you do miss about the game that make it very special for sure.
We mentioned earlier about the great look, the great Scott Niedermayer look of Hughes and Heiskanen. But there's another one in Shea Theodore. And now Shea Theodore was a member of the Anaheim Ducks before being claimed in the expansion draft. Did you have hands-on a little bit with Shea Theodore? Because that explains everything, why he's turned himself into one of the best defensemen in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't skate or pass until I talked to him. So. No,
did you see some greatness out of him?
Yeah, you could tell that he, had the ability to skate, obviously, and the way he moved the puck, he just kind of had his head up and he could snap the puck, kind of make wherever he wanted, making the right decision with it. You could see that. Back at the time, as a team, that we were sort of in the mode of trying to win a championship, and the expansion draft was coming along, and unfortunately, decisions have to be made. It's not as simple as looking back and saying, look at what he's doing now. For sure, there was decisions made at that time to try and get our team to win another championship. And unfortunately, we weren't able to keep him, for sure. But you could see that he had some skill and a good awareness, a hockey IQ, if you will, that was going to be a good thing for him going forward, for sure.
Well, we know there's some challenges south of the border. We also know that you're no longer in California. We know it's kind of crazy over there with the fires as well. Glad you're safe and sound. You're in western part of Canada, and the move may have had something to do with maybe your boys playing hockey as well.
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I are both from BC, but my boy's now 19. And he at the time was kind of saying, you know what, I want to go try and play some junior hockey somewhere. And when he said that, we just kind of looked at each other and said, well, maybe now's the time to go back to BC for a while. And, and give the kids a chance to sort of do that and see how it goes. So it's been fun watching them. You kind of wonder at times, you think, geez, what it's like to have to carry that name or those expectations around people, watched hockey. They kind of know what I did in my career, and now they got to go figure their own career out. And but they've handled it real well. I'm sure there's some extra burden there that I never had to deal with as a young kid, but they've done it well. They've enjoyed it coming up here to play hockey, and it's fun just to see them having the experiences that we did growing up, making friends and competing together as a team, for sure.
The first question is always going to be, do they skate like their dad?
Yeah. Not quite. They're a little different. Even the two middle boys that are kind of playing some junior hockey out here right now are two different. One plays forward, one plays D. Their personalities are quite different in how they play the game, which is fun to see. And they're going out there trying to sort of carve their own path, which is a little more challenging for them, like I said earlier, because like you said, they have some expectations that people, when they see that name, they kind of go right to, well, can he skate? Can he do these type of things? But they've handled it well. And
how about you? How have you handled being a hockey dad? Are you a behind the scenes type of guy, or are you right there like other parents?
Yeah, I think I'm a parent. So what can you do about that? That's a disease that we can't cure. I've helped a lot. I've never taken the head coaching position on any of my kids' teams. I've just been an assistant, get on the ice, have some fun, hopefully teach all the kids a few things and be able to be part of that. Until this year, where my youngest, with my other two boys, kind of moved on. I'm going to be the head coach for the first time in my life, I guess, for my youngest son, who's 12 years old. So that'll be a new challenge, but it's been good. It is a lot of fun. It brought back a lot of great memories for me, just traveling around, going to tournaments and having a blast with families as part of a hockey team. So it's all good.
You have no idea what you're getting yourself into right
Yeah,
now.
I do. I've been the assistant, and I've heard the head coaches talk a lot over the years. So I think I'm pretty sure I know what I'm getting into. So
all parents, 24-hour rule. Do not talk to me until 24 hours are over.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to toughen up for sure. That'll be one thing I have to do. But
well, there's no question, if you're even half as successful as a coach as you were as a hockey player, you're gonna do terrific. I can't thank you enough, Scott, for joining us today here on linemovement.com. It's been a pleasure catching up. You sound and I can see from the monitor, you look great, you look happy, you look content. Perhaps down the road we will see you in a more maybe a bigger role in the National Hockey League, but for now, good luck with the coaching.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nick, and good luck to your new thing you're doing here.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this new coaching gig for me is the start of something. I don't know. We'll see. Starting U13, so I got to start somewhere.
Scott Niedermayer, Hall of Famer, an all-around great guy. Scott, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this interview, if you've enjoyed what you've been listening to all week, please give a comment, give a click, subscribe, give me the thumbs up on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.